Welcome to the Law Firm Marketing Minute, your source of internet marketing inspiration.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Law Firm Marketing Minute. I'm your host, John Pinson, and we're starting a newsletter this week. It's the third week in our 6-week series here on some content marketing strategies. And yes, if you are somewhat astute and paying attention, these are the services that we do here at Spotlight Branding. But still wanted to take a deep dive into all of them, really explain how to get the most out of them, especially if you're doing them on your own, which totally fine. But wanted to talk newsletters this week. And if there's one service that's going to really get me fired up, it's going to be the e-newsletter, just because I see so many people who do it wrong. And then I see so many people who say that it doesn't work. And it's because so many people are not doing it the right way. So there are going to be some episodes later this week. I'm probably going to get real fired up, more so than you may have ever heard before, at least on this show. But today I want to talk about the design and how you are, presenting your email newsletter and how it shows up in people's inboxes. And one of the things that I see a lot of people do is they just kind of go into MailChimp or Constant Contact and they'll do like the basic template, or they'll do like one of those pre-designed templates where it looks nothing like anything the firm is doing stylistically or design wise, but it's got some colors. And so we'll just do that instead of a blank one column template, whatever. Otherwise it's just, they throw their logo at the top and then they have just blocks of text and maybe a couple of images thrown in here and there. It's just not good. And it's not, people aren't going to, people may open it the first couple of times. They're going to see that it's just not anything that looks interesting. It's not visually engaging. And they're just going to either unsubscribe or they're going to stop opening it altogether. And that, even if you are providing value, which we'll talk about later as well, if it doesn't look good, if it's not visually appealing, people are not going to open it. They're not going to engage with it. So to the greatest extent possible, you want to have your newsletter match the look and feel of your website. So how do you do that? First is, your header graphic. You don't want it to take up too much space in the fold, and the fold being just the space that is visible before you have to start scrolling. But you want your header to be very, very similar, if not the exact same as the header on your website. And if you have one of those headers that scroll through a couple of different images, just pick one, put it in there, probably pick the first one that shows up on your website. Use that as your header. Make sure your logo's there, obviously. But make sure that the header image is incorporated. And then, try to have a similar font, have the same color scheme, all of that, right? And so, look, it's not going to be a carbon copy of your website. And you want to make sure, and honestly, you don't really want that, right? Because, you start trying to make it look exactly like your website. Your template all of a sudden might be too large to where email providers will not open it, or the load time will be very slow and they'll end up automatically going to spam, or people just still won't open it or read it because it's bogging down or, causing a slow load time or whatever the case might be. So, there are ways to have something still kind of feel like it's in the same ballpark as your website. The color scheme being one, bringing over icons, for your practice areas, any kind of like small graphics like that. And then from there, it's, in terms of layout, there's a couple of different ways that you can go. One of the more popular ones is like a zigzag layout, where usually, it's maybe 50-50, but typically it's closer to, 2/3 split between a main column on the left and then a secondary column on the right. And then those two columns are different lengths. So then it becomes kind of a zigzag pattern where your eyes can be drawn to the other side, but in general, that left side column is where your core content's going to be. The right side column is going to be basic info about your firm, a call to action, a booking button, your practice areas, your actual contact info, phone number, email, address, all that kind of stuff. Other designs, other layouts might be something like, just horizontal just horizontal sections that go the full width, that just go down. But again, for what you are trying to accomplish, you don't need a ton of sections. I think for a law firm, that zigzag layout is going to be your best option, because it allows you to put core information about your firm on one side, but then it allows you to put the important stuff that, the new updates, the new content, whatever it is, on the left side in the prominent locations, and make sure, you put the most important information as close to the top as you can. I see a lot of firms, and we'll talk about this later this week too. They'll put a bunch of different articles in there. And the one that, in my opinion, is the most important is usually at the bottom. And you don't want to do that. People are not going to scroll that far if you have a ton of stuff in there. They will, I see these firms, they'll put various articles or recipes or something in there, and then they'll share an article that they wrote for their firm, but it's the last article. And people just, at that point, they're not, because they haven't found any value that far down yet, they're going to scroll out before they get to it. So core content, most important content, as close to the top as possible, and make sure it matches the look and feel of your website. And honestly, like, there are designers, contractors out there, like on Upwork or something, they can design that for you. They can, you show them your website and say, hey, I need a newsletter template for MailChimp or for Constant Contact, whatever provider you're using, and I want it to incorporate as many elements of my website as I can. Go. And they can absolutely create that design for you. So, if you're thinking about doing a newsletter, or you're currently doing a newsletter and you're missing a lot of this stuff, I would really look into revising it and redesigning it and all that. So design just as important as the content that you're putting in there. And we'll get into what you should be putting in there later on this week. So that's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us. Please visit lawfirmmarketingminute.com for more information. We'll see you next time.